Your work will not speak for you. People will speak for you. So stop focusing on performance currency. Focus on relationship currency. Now, I'm not saying don't be the best performer. Be the best performer, but don't be an arse. Don't at the cost of everybody else, where you step on people, you badmouth people, just so you can get your project seen. Because let me tell you, at the end of the day, someone's gonna say something. That's the long version. I'm a broadcaster here at Premier, and I might tell you the story of that, and also a TV broadcaster. But first off, I'm a recording artist. I live in the gospel space unashamedly. One of the gospel artists from here in the UK. Been at it for a few years. So yes, musician, husband, father, broadcaster. And that's who I am.
Thank you very much. So we've titled this the subject for this particular session. Don't go it alone. Relationships that would help you thrive in a crisis. And I mean, I'm one of those people who've been privileged to be in a mentorship type relationship with you. Possibly, I think somewhere around 2008, 2009. And if there's anything I know about you, has been how you've cultivated your relationships, which I'm sure you're going to tell us a lot of those stories, how your relationships have impacted you, how relationships have helped you with the roles, the jobs, the things you do around the globe, the people you meet. But before we get into questioning per se, just only because I know you stayed around this subject for a while, I would like to just give you an opportunity, probably the next 5 to 7, 10 minutes maybe, to just do a brain dump on us, so that we don't miss anything out while we get into the questions. What do you think are the type of relationships anyone should have been in before this crisis? And just because crisis is not just the coronavirus, right? Crisis happens all the time. What are those tangible relationships, and how do people cultivate the type of relationships that would ensure that in a time of crisis, there are people in their lives who can help them?
Well, for me, those who know me know I'm about relationships. And typically, when you mention that word, some people will think of romantic relationships.
Yeah.
Mostly that's what people will think of, but the people forget that actually the substratum of our whole lives, it's all about relationships. For those who travel on public transport, you have a relationship with the bus driver.
Yeah.
You have a relationship with people who are in. So it's and for me, I got to a stage where I recognized that in life there were currencies. Typically, people will think of money, pound sterling or dollars. I realized that actually those are probably the lowest form of currency, because it's when you don't have the relationship with the maître d' or with the footballer who's the number one in the country. When you don't have a relationship with them is when you throw your money at it, get into the football match, or you throw your money at it to get into the restaurant. But when you have a connect with them that's healthy, you wouldn't think of buying the ticket first. You would pick up the phone and say, "Oh, I want to come to the match." And so I realized that actually the connections we have are important, and some kind of way. I guess it's all part of how I'm wired as well from when I was younger. But for the purposes of our conversation, and it's impossible for us to really cover everything. But for the purpose of our conversation, I want people to know that one, the importance of relationship cannot be overstated. Zig Ziglar at the age of 81 was asked the question, what are the things you're thinking about now? And he replied by saying he's concluded that relationships are the most important things to focus on. And he said, in that conversation, he said, when you look at 100% of the things that people go for counseling for, it all comes back to relationships. When we look at people who are struggling, it's a husband, it's a wife, it's a friend, it's a father, it's a mother, it's something that happened with somebody else that gets them to where they are. I mean, even for me, sitting here, it's a story of relationships. I have the opportunity to do a TV show that the producers say 70 million people watch weekly. Now, for those of us who are of the way, who the Christian faith is our worldview, we would appreciate when I talk about people's commitment to Christ and salvation. Now, from that show, easily every year, and the show is called Turning Point, which I film in Virginia Beach, easily every year, over 10 million people pick up the phone to call after I finish the show to say, all right, I want to give my life to Christ. Now, these are not guest numbers. These are phone calls from over 200 TV stations. No, just under 200 TV stations show this program. After at the end of the show, I'll say, if you want to know more or you prayed with me, call this number now. Those are real lives that call it. Now, that being able to do that, talk to 70 million people weekly, have over 10 million people respond to the message of Jesus Christ, I can trace that back to relationships, healthy relationships and connections with people. And the journey wasn't started because it was treated as a formula or a function. And that's another thing I want people to know. It's not about a formula. It's not about a function. It's about a philosophy and a way of life, which is rooted in our Bible. I'm a Christian. I'm unashamedly so. My life, I used that book as a guide, and this is rooted in that. So I think it's necessary for people to know that in a crisis, your connections become even more important, and it's real true. And I let me tell you a story. There's one of the big general overseers in the country I hail from, Nigeria. I had gone to Nigeria for my brother's wedding. This is many years ago. My brother is much older. They call him my first son in the family. He's a husband with grown-up kids now himself. Went to Nigeria for his wedding, and I was on the way back to do a concert with the group that I sing with, Riversongz. At that point, we were about to do the biggest concert we'd ever done in our lives. It was at Liverpool Football Club. The wedding was on Saturday. It was finished. Get to the airport to catch BA, which leaves at 11, gets me back to London at 5 a.m., straight to Liverpool so we could do the concert. That was the plan. Yeah. I hit Lagos, got to the desk. The man at the desk insisted that the passport I had wasn't mine, that I was a fraud. I was upset. How dare you? You know, and later on got to find out he was after money. I didn't know. I just
got left for so long.
So I went straight to my British head. Call me the manager. I want to speak to the manager. And it went downhill. I went straight headlong, thrust into a crisis. I didn't leave the country for 4 days.
No way.
When they put me in lockdown. Now, At that point, the first thought I had, because I was totally dismembered. All my will, my ability was taken away from me by this structure, which was at the airport. And the first thing I could think of was, who can I call? Because at that point, the money wasn't helping me, the English wasn't helping, the know-how wasn't helping, the knowledge I had of civilizations and how customer services and all that didn't help me. I needed someone to call, and I called someone, and that's a totally different story. The person I called was one of the general overseers. I thought we had a relationship, and it just fell through spectacularly. Another gentleman came through for me, and he came through in a massive way. And this was another relationship. But that whole moment in my life of crisis taught me a lot about people, taught me about the relationship I thought I had, helped me to review it, introduced me to another level of relationship, which has lasted for almost 2 decades now, this particular, and it's flourished, and it's opened up world leaders, that particular relationship. But it was all born out of a crisis. And the question was, who can I call? And for all of us, if we're gonna be wise, we'll realize that this Corona moment and everything that comes with it, the question is, who is in my corner? Who am I in their corner? Because that's the currency that would take us forward. The performance currency is limited. Lots of people are focusing right now on performance. So you'll see and some of your speakers are touched. You see on Instagram, you see on Facebook, 20 things you must do before lockdown, this is how you must do it. And it's performance focus. And actually, at the end of the day, it's not your work that speaks for you, it's people that speak for you. So you can focus on your performance all you want, but without someone standing up for you and saying, actually, Adam did so well on this, your nicely made project will sit there saying nothing. But I could go on and on.
So, wow. So I like that. So there's a difference between the performance. So how have you cultivated these well-meaning relationships? Because at least in that situation you talked about, you had options, right? So I called A. Well, A didn't seem to work, but you had a B. There's some people who probably wouldn't have anyone to call in that instance. And even from what I'm hearing from you, even in that instance, you were still learning. So number one, you learned how well your relationship with A was. And then you now have grown more value and cultivated your relationship with B, who actually came through for you. So what would be your advice? How do people cultivate these well-meaning relationships? And if you could speak to this, who do you need to be in your corner in a time of crisis?
So I think the first thing is you have to address you. Much of the time when we're looking at relationships, we're always outwards facing, who do I need in my life? Actually, you need you in your life first. You need an intelligent you in your life first. Because
could you qualify intelligence? Because certainly when I'm talking to people like you, when I hear things like intelligence, I begin to wonder: is it that I didn't read my book very well?
It's an intelligent you is a you that's not just dancing along without asking yourself questions and seeing where you have failed, marking yourself, doing the corrections. Understanding that, you know what, I'm not perfect, so I'm not going to expect everybody else to be perfect. So an intelligent you is being able to look at, so for me, an intelligent me in the situation I just described was, I thought the relationship with General Overseer A was this.
Yeah.
Actually, under stress, I discovered that I couldn't. My expectations of him didn't stand up to what I had. The currency I thought I had with him, I didn't have. And that's not his fault. That's my expectation.
Yeah.
You know, so an intelligent me was, whilst I was feeling the pain of my dominoes falling over, of an event I couldn't get to, of a wife at home that I couldn't get to, of the stress of, oh my goodness, am I going to be stuck in this country? Granted, I've been boasting for years. My name is Olanrewaju. I'm Nigerian. Now I'm stuck in Nigeria. I'm like, God, get me out of here. You know. So it was an intelligent me was stopping to realize that, hold on, there's some deficit in my understanding of me, my understanding of my relationship with this brother.
Yeah.
And actually my situation. And it's being able to stop and say, okay, so who am I and what do we do now? And some, you might think, oh, some people might think it's overly philosophical. No, it's not. It's the foundation with which you can build forward. If you don't do those things, you can't build meaningful relationships, because what happens is you get into a relationship, just like, again, like my general overseer who I was speaking about, and a thing like that happens and you react and think, and you say, he is this, he is that, he's the other. So my wife, when I got back, she was belligerent. My wife was, how can you call him your friend? Yada, 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 yada. You should cut him off. And I said to him, sweetheart, I didn't start a journey with him really so he can get me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Airport. My relationship with him was based on the knowledge that this man had something of mysterion that he carried, and a mystery of God that I could learn from. It was me that added the layers without permission. And he too, you know, I mean, we swam along nicely until crisis.
Yeah.
You know, so once he showed me what this was about, I had to stop and say, okay, now I understand your position. What's my position? So for me, that's intelligent, an intelligent relationship with yourself, where you're asking the hard, and you're answering the hard questions too, before you start demanding of other people.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say, Aaron disappointed me. Aaron let me down. Actually, when did Aaron make the promises he did? And actually, even if Aaron said it verbally, did I pay attention to the communications of Aaron to know whether there's a deficit between his words and his action?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. There was something said I just want to pick up. But let's move on. So, what do you think are the key ways to maintain and make relationships flourish? So, okay, yeah, I remember what I wanted to say. So I tell my clients that leaders are revealed in crisis. Leaders are revealed in crisis. And in so many ways, the story you just told is revealing something about each and every one of those leaders and everyone in that situation. So what exactly did you learn from that particular crisis?
Well, first I learned I'm not as Nigerian as I thought I was, because I couldn't even understand what this man wanted was money, and I just went straight into "how dare you, sir" mode. You know?
And that in itself is a relationship, because that's a language, right? So if you understood what he needed,
it was absolutely, and you're so right, Aaron. It was absolutely, and this it brings us back to what I was saying earlier on. When you hear relationship, people think, oh, husband, wife, but actually the bus driver that you cut your eye at, that You know, you have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
There's an example that I've seen speakers give, coaches like you give, where you have a bad day as a boss.
Mm-hmm.
Then you call your line report in, blast them. They blast the secretary. The secretary blasts the postman. The postman gets home, blasts his wife. His wife, who's had a bad day, blasts the child. The child goes upstairs and kicks the cat. At the end of the day, you, Mr. at the top, you're the one that kicked the cat, but you didn't even know about the cat. You know, so you think that the way you treat the bus man, the man on the bus, it's just, I'm just having a bad day. But actually you're affecting a relationship, which affects a relationship, which affects a relationship. So for me, one, I learned that I wasn't as Nigerian as I thought. Two, looking back now, and it's a great thing you mentioned, my communication and understanding wasn't what it ought to be. I was being incredibly selfish because yes, so this man was after money, but actually I didn't even hear him.
Yeah.
Imagine how self-centered that is. And a lot of us do it, especially those of us who come from third world, first world countries and go to a third world countries. We tend not to hear and see people.
Yeah.
And which is why I also say that money is the lowest form of currency. So what we do is we just buy the space, we buy the attention, we buy, when actually, if I'd heard that man, maybe, but then, you know, all things working together, that crisis allowed me to know the relationship I was really in and form another relationship, like I said, open up doors to world leaders.
Yeah.
You know, years later. So it's for me, I think if this conversation, anything I want, one of the things I want people to take out of it, one is do the work yourself, be honest with yourself. And being honest with yourself doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you knowing that, okay, anyway, you can be a bit crazy sometimes. At least you know that about yourself.
Yeah.
That when you are now reacting to somebody else, you're able to stop and say, was that me or was that them? Because we tend to project on other people and accuse them of stuff that has nothing to do with them. It was 90% us.
Okay. So what I'm also hearing, and maybe I've got my coaching hat on, is not many people would probably have been able to extract the lessons, so many lessons from what incidents, as we're able to mine from this, and that tells me a lot about you're a learner, you're learning through your experiences, you're evaluating your experiences, and maybe people keep telling us experience is the best teacher, but that experience wouldn't have taught you anything if you didn't go through that process of evaluating what has happened. And now we can mine such gold from that particular experience that we can all learn from. And that's helping many people who are listening. So let's go back to the next question. So what are the key ways? So now that relationship led you to this other relationship with this person B. Now, how have you cultivated that relationship such that it's flourishing? It's brought you before world leaders. What are the key things that people should have in the back of their minds in actually maintaining relationships such that it can flourish?
I think one of the keys, which would be remiss of us if we don't pay attention to it, is that it's not about you. Much of the time when we go into a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a business relationship, generally as human beings, we're thinking first about us.
Yeah.
But the worldview that we share, which is a Christian worldview, is based on greater love has no man than this, that a man should lay down his life for a friend. And I think one of the things that God has been kind to me with is shaping me in such a way that, I mean, I'm not a Mother Teresa. I mean, but actually, I have a heart for people. I care for people, and that's been one of the keys. One of the keys that's helped me in building great. And I think I have some very strong relationships. I mean, when we think about this moment that we're in, this COVID-19 situation, and how it's decimated some people's economy. Well, the reality is, as I sit here speaking to you, one of my main streams of income has gone up by 10% in this time, and it's not going to go down after COVID. It's going to stay and go up, and I can trace that straight back to building healthy relationships, not because I was feeding something to get something, but because I thought, oh, I wonder how Jay is. Hey Jay, how you doing? Hope you're well. Just called to say hello. Boom. Someone calls that needs help, and I'm like, okay, if I can, I will. Just being selfless and building over time that without keeping accounts, because then when this moment arrived and things were falling, and people were thinking, okay, actually X, Y, and Z can't do X, Y, and Z anymore. We need this to be done. Oh, Muyiwa, please, would you do this for us? This is what we'll pay. Like, of course, I do that with my eyes closed. I mean, this right here, scripts that I have to read for someone who came to my mind, and in the community we're in, this is quite a significant person, came to my mind, and I just sent a text saying, hey, how you doing? Hope you're well, just a drive-by to say hello. It was just a drive. I don't know what he's working on. It was just honestly a drive-by to say hello. 48 hours later, I get a call from him saying, listen, you know, we're doing X, Y, and Z, and I'll really be grateful if you, I'm like, yeah, happy to do it. He said, no, I'll pay you. So like, that wasn't necessary. I said, you didn't even have to call. One of your minions could have called me, and I would have done it. Honestly, would have done it. So I think a big key is being selfless. And right now, and for someone who's thinking, okay, so where do I start from? Well, who is in your phone book? Who can you be a blessing to right now, without being highfalutin about it? If you're a single mother, okay, which other mother is out there? Your son at school, or your daughter at school, someone that you thought about and you thought, she's been on my mind. I wonder how she is. Can I send her a text? Send her a card? You know, do something kind. You know, it's real simple stuff, and do it not because you're looking for something back in return. Do it because greater love has no man than this, and a man should lay down your life for somebody.
Yeah. And that does not necessarily mean that we have to do it Mother Teresa's way, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
All down to your own personality profile, your own type, the way you are shaped, and things like that. So what roles do you think personality profile or personality types, how do you think they show up in the types of relationships? So everybody will talk about Mother Teresa, right? But she was probably a very phlegmatic person. So that does not necessarily mean, and I like the examples you use, so that I don't do it Mother Teresa's way does not mean you don't love people. So can you encourage the different personality types to find ways within their relationship? So it still goes along to, you have to know yourself, you have to discover yourself to be able to help other people. So if you can just speak to the different personality types on how they can still, irrespective of I'm introvert or extrovert, you can still build well-meaning relationships that will be needed even in times of crisis.
So I asked a question today to a couple of people in the office. I mean, we're in lockdown, but I'm still at the radio station every day, and a couple of my team members are here. And I asked a question to two of them, and both of them, they're quite different. A woman, a man. One is very introvert. One is the life of the party. And the life of the party, so I asked them, what are you looking for in a relationship? And you know, their speech betrays them. By the time they finish the life of the party, you realize that actually this person is a life of party, but is struggling with so much brokenness, and they are constantly wanting approval from people, and they are tired of it. And they said it themselves in just our short conversation. And the introvert, supposed introvert, express themselves in such a way that you realize these are deep waters. But by the end of it, we concluded that each one of them, the one that talks a lot and the one that doesn't talk much, has people in their lives that they can reach out to immediately, that they can be of use to, of benefit to immediately. So the person that talks a lot, the sanguine, it's expressed in the same way it's expressed in a choleric person. But the thing is to know who is in my world. Might be a small world, might be a big world. So right now, there might be families watching or a businessman watching, and you think, oh, but I can't, I'm not like Coach Aaron. I'm not so bold to talk to people. But actually, no, you're bold enough to say hello to someone, or bold enough to send an email that may not be as intrusive. Send an email to someone you've been thinking about to say, thinking about you. Oh, but it's understanding that without these things, every human being has this desire to achieve, this innate thing to be the greatest. But actually, without relationships, you can't get there.
Yeah.
At the moment, everyone is talking about Michael Jordan because of The Last Dance, the Netflix special. But we all focus on Michael Jordan now, whose economy turns over 2 billion every year, et cetera, et cetera. But actually, 1982, I think it was, Michael Jordan, the college kid, North Carolina versus Georgetown, he himself says that's the turning point of his life. Now, Michael Jordan himself says at that point, he says, I didn't know what I was doing. Says that team was where my desire was ignited and I was shaped and formed. Now, imagine if he wasn't in that team, would we have the great Jordan that we have now? So it's for us to understand that most of us, and we have this bad habit of looking at the finished product. We look at people who are successful, and we judge success by money, by things. For gospel artists, it always tickles me. They would look at the moment, look at like a Travis Green, and not realize Travis really only hit where he's at now 6 years ago. But they'll look at him and think, oh, I want to be him. But there'll be people who may not have the heady visibility of Travis Green, who have been doing what Travis has only been doing for 6 years, been doing it successfully for 12 years. But because we don't know their name, we won't flex, we won't move with them at all. We won't even talk to them about ministry so we'll look at an Aaron T. Aaron or or look at a Goss I Am and look at the Instagram feed. Well, it doesn't have 100,000 people. Yeah, Travis has over 300,000, so he must know better. What does he? You know, I mean, and forgive me, I'm digressing a little, but I think it's important for us to recognize that without connecting with people, whether you're a talker or not a talker, the next level you're looking at, it's hidden in your relationships.
The next level you're looking at is hidden in your relationship.
Yeah. So, and that might sound oxymoronic because I say you're looking at, but it's hidden. But actually, it's not, because something of your inner self perceives it, but you can't see it because it's still far from you. So you can perceive it, like, if you want to get theological about it, is what Apostle says, that I may know him in the power of his resurrection fellowship. When he says know him, it's that I may know him intuitively after having experienced it. So for a lot of people, there is something of a feeling that you have that, oh, I see, I want to be successful, but actually, until you have hit it, walked through it, gone through the process, getting the trophy, you can't see it.
You know what you just said is actually, as soon as you said it, it hit a chord with me, because, and you may not have known this, but I'm just going to tell the story because it may just help people. And I'm just going to say it again, if you can type it. The next level you're looking at is hidden in your relationship. So let me see if you remember. So many years ago, so many years ago, possibly, I think it was around 2009, probably 2009. So I had my first album in 2010. So I think it was 2009. You invited me to come BV for you. The men's ministry at Jesus House. Can you remember? What they call it? Mandates. The only time you've ever invited me to. So guys, really listen to this story. The only time you've ever invited me to BV for you, ever. You had never before then. And you asked me, you just called me that morning and said, hey, what are you doing Thursday evening? I said, I told you I was traveling and I was going to Nigeria. And then 10 minutes after that, the Holy Spirit said, Muyiwa called you and you said you're going to Nigeria. I said, but I am going to Nigeria. It's not, it wasn't a lie. I was traveling. So I think I probably called you back within the hour and told you what you just said now is so valid, and called you back and said, I will be there the next day. But you never knew I was on my way to Nigeria. So I canceled, I called the airline, I couldn't get through. But anyway, I made that administration on Thursday. Wow. Came for that administration and went back to the airline to see if I could change the airline, right? Change my flight.
Whilst we're waiting for Coach Aaron, I said to you I was going to tell you the story of this. As it pertains to relationships. And the reality is, I have a business studies degree and I have a music degree. I never planned. My mother was a radio presenter, but it was not something that was on my. I never intended to follow my mother into broadcasting. I fell into broadcasting. I really wanted to make pop music.
Okay.
No, I got you back.
Yeah, thank you.
So please,
go on with your thoughts.
Let's pause my story and carry on with you.
Right.
I'll bring up mine.
All right. So I came for that gig with you at Jesus House. Mm-hmm. Came for the gig at Jesus House, and that was it. So I went back. I'm still in between. God, could that be real? I just lost 880 pounds.
Oh, Lord.
But guess what? I called the airline to try and change so by the time I got, that was Thursday, Friday morning, I called the airline and said, hey, I couldn't travel yesterday and this and that. And then I found out that the airline actually had gone to administration before.
Whoa.
Yeah, Bellevue Airline, remember, they had gone into administration the night before. So I could have said no to you and would still not have flown to Lagos.
Wow.
And that would have been that opportunity gone. Now, you have never, this is the first time you're hearing this from me, you never ever invited me to BV for you ever. But I've never really lacked anything that I've ever come to say, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I knew within me that that singular act played a major role in how our relationship have progressed over the years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that's why what you said just made a lot of sense, because that was hidden in that act. It wasn't you didn't invite me because you were expecting to help me or anything. But the decision I made in that act has helped build this relationship over the years, and so it's just so valid what you said. Go on.
I think there's something in that the relationships, the positives in relationships. A lot of the time we're looking at how someone will treat us. Actually, a lot of it is about how the decisions that we make. I have a dear friend who his partner was having an affair with someone, and he knew all about it, found out new details and everything. And the question was he going to blow up the house, blow up the bridge, and blow up everything? But he made a decision to talk to his partner, to reason with his partner, to talk about what's happening, why are we where we're at, and thank God over the years they've healed. Now, it wasn't easy, but they've healed because of the decision that he made. And he would have been right to a degree if he had said, you cheated on me, shoot you, boom, everything, blow up everything. But his decision, and it speaks to what comes out of a relationship. It depends on what we put into it and the actions we take. So I was talking about Premier and the impact of relationships. Years ago, I worked at Sony. I used to look after Maxwell, Bob Dylan, Mariah, people like that. And I had a music degree and I had a business studies degree. And I was a worship leader in church, but I really didn't want to do gospel music. I wanted to do pop music. But because of my best friend, Eddie Martin, we decided, okay, we're going to record an album and just, do something for God. We thought we were doing something for God. We recorded an album, which is where we get the song, and we will say our God is good. That album was given to someone saw me at an event, took the album, as people will do, and say, oh, I'm going to give your album to so. So they gave it to the person who's head of music here at Premier. Now, unbeknown to me, the person who was head of programming here at Premier at that point was someone I'd known at university. When I was at university, my first university, there were a group of young ladies who I used to hang out with. There were about 8 of them from the New Testament Church of God in Mile End. And they would come to my flat. I would cook for them, and the relationship grew in such a way I became quite protective over them. And for me, the relationship, there was never anything that was even remotely sexual about them. These were my sisters. So it was always about looking out for them, how they're doing, and all this. She was amongst this group, and something of my engagement with her and the group left such an indelible mark on her. I wasn't to know this. We were just doing life together. I was making sure I would call them, how you doing? What's happening? I would give advice about men and all these things and all this stuff. So I come here to do an interview. after the album had been given to the head of music here. Now, the head of music, when I called him, they told me to call him, he blasted me off the phone. Told me he was busy and I was wasting his time, taking up his time. Mind you, just a side note, years later, I'm now his boss's boss. Actually, actually, let's just leave it there. Let me not reveal. I'm his boss's boss, you know, simple. When I came, did an interview, one of the young ladies from that group that I used to roll with at university was one of their bosses here, remembers me. I came to do an interview. I leave. She says to the chief exec, because they've been looking for a presenter to do a particular show, says to the chief exec, listen, I've got someone you've got to hear. The chief exec calls me. I come back the next day. I thought it was to do voiceover work.
Yeah.
Because of this young lady's recommendation, which is why I say your work will not speak for you. People will speak for you. So stop focusing on performance currency and focus on relationship currency.
Because you just say all that again, just so that the people can hear it.
Yeah, your work will not speak for you. People will speak for you. So stop focusing on performance currency. Focus on relationship currency. Now, I'm not saying don't be the best performer. Be the best performer, but don't be an arse. Don't at the cost of everybody else, where you step on people, you badmouth people, just so you can get your project seen. Because let me tell you, at the end of the day, someone's gonna say something, you know. Yeah. So this young lady speaks up. Anyhow, it ends up me being offered a show at this station. I get to the station, one show becomes 2 shows, become 3 shows, and that's how premiere happened. And all of a sudden, an explosion happened, and that was a key cog in that. Was how I treated this young lady
so many years ago, 10
years before, and I wasn't thinking I'm paying it forward. I was just thinking, this is my sister. Now let me tell you another one, if you don't mind me rambling. So I'm at premiere. I come on the station and I don't know radio. I'm just doing me. So I come on and I'm proud of my heritage. My name is Muyiwa Olarewaju. Yeah. There's a lady listening and she's like, and loads of people listen like, who is this African boy? You know, this lady, she starts talking to her brother in the States about some African boy that's on Premier Radio. The brother starts to listen, right? And his mind is wondering, okay, who is this kid? Now, I'm in London and I have another one of my moments where I'm thinking, oh, I wonder how this brother is. And you remember this man, Pastor Charles Ikutimenu.
Yep.
He was one of the associate pastors at church we went to together.
Yeah.
He had moved to the States to do his master's at Regent's University. And I was thinking about him a lot, wonder how he is, just worried about him. I tried several times for over a few months to get hold of him, couldn't reach him. Finally, I track him down. It just happens that he's living in the same house as this man who the sister had been talking to about this guy. It just happens that when I call the house, I say, can I speak to Pastor Charles, please? They give him the phone. He comes off the phone. They say, who is that? Oh, it's Brother Muyiwa from London. The man says, what? Muyiwa on Premiere? And he says, yes, it just happened. The man says, I've been looking for this guy. I've been thinking about him. Can you tell him to call me? Now, it just happened. If I wasn't thinking, imagine if I didn't think enough about Pastor Charles, and it wasn't now. And if you're watching this, please bear with me because I want you to see where this lands. If I hadn't thought of Pastor Charles, I wonder how he's doing, just to see about him. I wouldn't have connected with this man in America. Now, this man in America was the creator and presenter of a show, which he then after digging, discovered I do music. So he invited me and my crew to the States. I go on the show, of course, I sing. They pay me to go on the TV show. I'm excited, bless God. He says to me as I was leaving, he says, how would you feel about taking over this show? And I just, wow. Of course, I mean, you know, it's a great show. I mean, I didn't know the magnitude of it. 7 years later, I get a call from the presenters of the producers of the show I'm talking about, Turning Point, that I now do. 70 million people every week, millions giving their lives to Christ. And the gentleman I'm talking about, his name is Victor Ladokun. He had said that to me 7 years before, but here's the interesting thing. When the producer called me and they offered me the TV show, I said yes. I went out to do the screen test. The screen test was horrible. Even they said it. And I remember saying to their director, how many other options do you have? They said, we don't have a plan B. So it was just you. Then I called Victor Ladokun to thank him because I thought, given our conversation 7 years before, it was him. No, he had left about a year before I was called. The producer who called me because one of her colleagues in their prayer time said, this guy Muyiwa's name keeps coming to my mind. She was the producer when I went, but she remembered that I treated her kindly and I kept in touch from time to time to see how you're doing. I wasn't thinking of becoming the presenter of the show. I was just doing what was natural to me, which was to make sure she was fine. And it didn't cost me that much. It only cost me a few minutes at a time. Now she was the one who was the pivot. She was the tipping point so my life went all of a sudden from just some guy in London doing a radio show to this guy on TV in America, where in the world that I'm in, people are paying to be on TV. I was being paid to be on TV, all because of, and I could tell you story after story after story. And I know our time is far spent, but I want to encourage someone that's watching this now, know that your people skills is more important than all the know-how that you spend, the maths you learned, because you get to a company, a guy who knows how to, a woman who knows how to relate with people ends up managing people from Harvard, people from Oxford, who know much more than her, but she knows people and knows how to handle people. And don't forget that actually, Mental Health Foundation, I think it was in 2016, they sent out a report that said that lack of quality relationships is killing us more than obesity and lack of exercise.
Wow.
So at the end of it all, relationships matter more than you can imagine, because of them, you can have good health. I mean, you know, Dr. Ornish, Dean Ornish, he talks about this, he says that actually there's nothing that heals quicker than love and loving relationships, you know, and he's like, I mean, he's a great mind from Harvard, you know. So relationships, it affects your health, heals your health. Relationship affects your dreams. Like we said, that dream you're looking at, you know, that's eluding you, it's hidden in relationships at the end of it all. So
wow. So just because of time, I just wanted to touch on something really quickly. So everyone is talking AI, the future is online and all that whole stuff. Is AI going to take the place of relationships? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Here's the reality.
Because right now, what we find out is, right now we find out people are not related. Everybody's indoors. Everybody's trying to get online. Everyone is trying to understand. But I personally think nothing can take away the place of touch. So I want you to speak into that just as we begin to round up.
Absolutely. Nothing can take the place of touch. Whilst you're online, right? And you think you're just in your own tech world, you're spending your time online to try and reach somebody else. You're not spending your time trying to reach a machine. So the AI is just a tool and a conduit for you to be able to get to somebody else. So the algorithms that are frustrating you, it's written by a human being. Let me tell you, give you an example. It just came to my mind. So in the world that I live in, even though it's gospel, even though it's ministry, it's you know, how people see things. An image is important. So I was told that years ago that, listen, you know, you're such a big personality, but you don't have a blue tick. You're not verified. You know, I'm like, well, who cares if I'm not? It matters if you're verified or not. And so these techie guys, they were doing all their stuff, and they did all their tech, including one that works with that you're doing stuff. She did all her know-how to make this thing happen on one particular platform. Nothing happened. She knows the platform like nobody's business. Understands the algorithms like nobody, can make machines work for her. You know, in the end, it was a friend of mine who is the head of Facebook in Africa that I called her and I said, Liv, what's this thing all about? She said, what? In a day, she said, she sent an email to one of her line reports, says, I need this done immediately. Boom.
Wow.
It was sorted. Now, the people who know the machine and the algorithms tried their best.
Yeah.
Key in the end was a personal relationship, and you'll find that again. And AI is the future, but it's the human element that makes a difference. My old professor, Norton York, an incredible man. I remember sitting down with him and talking to him, and we were talking about schools for my children. And there were certain schools I was thinking about, and he says to me, and he went to St. Paul's, and he said to me, why do you want the boys to go to those kind of schools? I mean, it's unnecessary. They could go to this, that. So I said to him, Norton, I said, when you took over your mother's school, because he took over his mother's school, which is the oldest school in Kew Gardens, and in 2 years, the business grew by like 300%, right? But he invested in it. So I said, the money that you used to pull up the school, where did you get it from? He said, a bank. I said, the guys who were at the bank that you spoke to, did you go to school with them? He said, yes. Aha. So these were relationships that you had. It wasn't about how good the school was. I mean, the school had to be good. It wasn't about, you know, the reports he had written. It was the fact that he was able to walk somewhere where I can walk, to get millions of pounds that I can't ask for, first because of a relationship. So when I said that to him, he says, you do have a point. Maybe we should let the boys go to this school.
Let me just say a big thank you, because we've run out of time. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Uncle Muyiwa. Thank you for being so candid on this show today and just really giving us so many nuggets. I'm not going to forget that. The key to your next level is hidden in your relationships. Thank you so much, sir, because we've got another show starting at 5, and I'll catch up with you later.
Sorry for being so loquacious, man. And I hope if you're watching this, you've been blessed. I'm online somewhere. Just look for official Muyiwa. And let me tell you one thing, if there's anything you get out of this, all of it might be a blur. Connect back to Coach Aaron, because him and his team will help you walk through these things and help you unravel these things, because you can listen to an hour and it'll be a blur, but you need a relationship to help you walk through it. And I highly recommend Aaron and his team. I'm telling you, if your mother you're a student, your father, you're a businessman. Just try it. At least if you try it once and it doesn't work, you can move on. Try it.